from Maryland.
Madam President, as Leader Schumer.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to vitiate the quorum call.
Without objection.
Mr. President, this shutdown is not a negotiation situation. This is a hostage situation. For the past 3 weeks, Donald Trump has held 800,000 federal workers, tens of thousands of federal contractors, and thousands of small businesses hostage to extort money for his vanity wall under the pretext of an emergency at our southern border. And today, hundreds of thousands of hardworking civil servants felt the pain of missing a paycheck because this amoral, hostage-taking president is continuing to throw a temper tantrum. Most of us live in the real world where paychecks are needed to keep a roof over our heads and food on our table. Growing up, my mother was the sole breadwinner for 3 of us kids. It would have been unthinkable, disastrous for our family to miss even one paycheck from her low-wage job. When the president says he can relate to the hundreds of thousands of families going without a paycheck, who does he think he's kidding? Most people don't have daddies, as he did, to bail us out time and again by the millions. Enough said about a president who does not feel your or anybody else's pain. We can't look to him for leadership, moral or otherwise. One person who can enable the Congress to end the shutdown is Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. All he has to do is to bring up the bills that the House sent us last week, the same bills that passed the Senate in last Congress to keep government open. No one needs to remind Senator McConnell that the Senate is part of a separate and co-equal branch of government. The Senate can and should, without the president's consent he is currently withholding unless he gets his vanity wall. So instead of standing up to Donald Trump, Senator McConnell is missing in action. And through his silence and inactions, Senator McConnell has endorsed another of Donald Trump's lies, that there is a crisis at the border so severe that it justifies taking 800,000 people hostage as leverage for a $5.6 billion down payment, only a down payment, for his vanity wall. Let me be clear. The only crisis is the one Donald Trump manufactured, and the only wall that is real is the one that is closing in on him. The weekend before Donald Trump shut down the government, I joined several of my colleagues on a visit to Texas, where I saw the real crisis at the border, the humanitarian catastrophe created by Donald Trump's disastrous immigration policy. At detention facilities in Dilley and Carnes, facilities that a top official from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, callously and dismissively described as summer camps. I saw families locked away, some for months at a time, without proper access to legal, medical, or mental health care. Many of these families have access to legal services only out of the generosity, ingenuity, and hard work of volunteers and overstretched nonprofits. I also visited the massive detention camp for unaccompanied children at Tornillo. Tornillo started as a temporary camp for several hundred kids in June of 2018 after the Trump administration systematically separated kids from their parents under its zero-tolerance policy. Tornillo has now ballooned to currently holding some 2,700 unaccompanied children. And I note that there are now an estimated 15,000 unaccompanied children in facilities throughout our country. Since June, the administration has already spent more than $144 million on the makeshift Tornillo detention camp, where food, water, and other basic items have to be trucked in regularly. I was disturbed to find that thousands of kids are being held in these soft-sided tents in the middle of the desert, shut off from the outside world and the local community. In fact, when concerned members of the local community came by to drop off gifts and items to show these kids that there were people who cared, the detention camp turned the community people away because, as it was explained to me when I said, why would you do that? It was explained to me that there were not enough items brought to give to every child. A pretty sad reason, in my view. Most troubling was that there was no good reason for the prolonged detention of children at this facility. We were told that between 800 and 1,300 kids at Tornillo already have sponsors, such as parents or relatives lined up to take them into homes. But the children continue to be detained because of the administration's policy of requiring all potential sponsors and all adults in the potential sponsor households to submit fingerprints, which would then be information shared with ICE, thus subjecting everyone to potential deportation. The chilling effect of this policy is obvious in the skyrocketing length of detention of these children as fingerprints are obtained and processed. Now the negative consequences of this policy has become apparent even to this administration, which instituted the policy to begin with. So the administration is now easing up on the fingerprinting of everyone in the household, but the damage has already been done. In 2016, the average length of stay for unaccompanied children in these facilities was 35 days. Today, the average has been reported to be at least 59 days and even up to 74 days. These are kids who need to recover from the trauma of coming to this country, not to be re-traumatized with prolonged detention. The detention of unaccompanied children and families for longer and longer periods is the real humanitarian crisis facing our country at the southern border. And this crisis will not be fixed by Trump's vanity wall. As if holding 800,000 workers and their families hostage is not horrible enough, Donald Trump is now thinking of taking billions of dollars away from disaster victims to find a way to pay for his wall. This is callousness compounded. Sometimes I find myself totally at a loss for words as the president keeps coming up with all these ways to basically get himself out of the corner that he's gotten himself into. So, Mr. President, I call on Senator McConnell to use the power he has to bring the House-passed bills to the floor, the bills that we in the Senate passed by voice vote last Congress, to end this shutdown. Unnecessary pain grows by the day. 800,000 workers go without pay. Food safety is being compromised. Our national parks go unopened or unprotected. Air travel can turn into a nightmare as more and more the TSA agents stay home. The list goes on as we wait for the president to come to his senses. We should live so long. Meanwhile, our country is waiting for Senator McConnell and our Republican colleagues to come to their senses. So, Leader McConnell, everyone knows you have the power to act. Bring these bills to the Senate floor. We can end the shutdown now. The Senate, Senator McConnell, if you bring the bills to the floor, we'll pass these bills because we already did so. End the unnecessary pain. We don't have the luxury of waiting around for the president to truly feel anybody's pain because he is incapable of feeling anybody's pain but his own. We can end the shutdown now. We can take action on the floor of the Senate. We can do the responsible thing in response to to the pain that I know we are hearing from all of our constituents all across the country. What are we waiting for? End the shutdown now. I yield the floor.
Hi everyone, my name's Mike. I'm the creator of Mox News. And for the last 15 years, I have been telling you that as long as I have the support of the community that I serve, Mox News will post videos forever. And that's the truth. As long as I have your support, no one could ever make me stop. Unfortunately, currently, less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of Mox News viewers ever donate, tip, or contribute anything back. Again, let me make that really clear. Much less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% ever give anything back. And to those of you who have donated to Mox News, I want to thank you so much, because it's because of your generosity that we have been able to bring attention to important videos that millions and millions of eyes would have never seen. And I think that that's an amazing thing that we've been able to make happen together. And I can't thank you enough for helping me make that happen. So it's not too late. If you'd like to see Mox News covering the 2020 presidential election, if you can't imagine the 2020 presidential election without Mox News, please, there's still time. You can make a difference. It's easy to make a contribution, donation, or tip. You can go to moxnews.com, or in the text body of this video, there are clickable links to the Patreon page or to the PayPal page. And again, it should take less than 2 minutes to make a donation, and your donation can make a big difference. So I thank you all. Stay cool. One of these days this war is going to end, and it would be awesome if Mox News could be there to celebrate that day with you.